This trip is a big deal for me, like a whole big deal for me. I mean, you don't understand. Okay, let me just break it down for you. Look, I've never been to Europe. I've traveled a number of places, but Europe is where I've never been. And I've always heard about the development in Europe, how people are more civilized in Europe and how they live, etc. And I've seen movies, I've watched movies, and for me to be able to be there in person was a big deal for me because I don't know anybody in my family who's ever been to Europe. I don't know anybody. But maybe from saying this, I'll get my family members to come to me and say, no, but remember Uncle so and so went. But so far, I'm the first in my lineage and in my family to go to Europe. And on this trip, we'll be going to Netherlands, England, Scotland, and Belgium. I just mentioned them in no particular order. But for this trip and this video that I'm going to show you now, we left South Africa at night to go to Schiphol Airport, and then we'll be transiting from Schiphol Airport to Heathrow. You might ask, why am I so excited about this trip? Firstly, this trip was supposed to happen last year, not this year. And it happening this year is a big deal because there were so many things that happened before we traveled that nearly made it, not possible for us to travel. So last year we decided to postpone the trip to this year. And then this year, for some reason, we dilly-dallied and did not book our visas in time. And yeah, we might not have a visa. We might not be traveling, but we did. So let me tell you the challenges that we experienced. Firstly, we did not book the flights in time because there were other things that happened that indicated we might not be able to travel. Family members were getting sick, our kids were getting sick, we were getting sick. Things were just not making sense. And then we decided, you know what, let's just book the visas. If we don't go, we don't go. If we go, we go. Okay? And we got our visas 4 days before the departure. So it's the Schengen visa and also the UK visa. They are different. So we had to apply at 2 different embassies. And we only booked our flights 3 days before departure and accommodation. So you can imagine how expensive this trip is going to be. And yeah, we've budgeted, yeah, we've been saving, yeah, but I just was not ready for what we experienced, like for real. So as we were boarding, right, at OR Tambo at night, we're waiting there on the queue. It's going. As it starts going, I start feeling hot and cold at the same time. That was a very embarrassing moment, and I'm glad my husband didn't capture it on camera. I start getting hot and cold at the same time. Like, what the hell is going on? And I start feeling a bit dizzy. Then as I went, I became me and that bin next to the check-in counter. We became one. We bonded like never before. That's how nervous I was. So you get it now, right? I hope you do, because this is one hell of a trip and I can't wait to go and take you with me to Europe. So yeah, Kamosa goes to Europe for the very first time. Do you understand that I'm breaking generational curses? Like, my ancestors must be looking down at me with happiness that I'm able to go and see the world. This is something I knew I wanted to experience when I was growing up, but I just never knew when it will happen and how it will happen. So yeah, it's happening for the first time. We flew from Johannesburg with KLM, and it was the very first time that I was using KLM, and the food was okay, the plane was okay. As we got into the cabin, I fell asleep. The flight was about 11 hours, and I woke up about an hour to 2 hours before we landed. And it was a great flight. Look, I didn't experience anything weird. If anything, I just got into the flight and I slept flat out, didn't wake up, nothing. No bathroom or toilet trips for me. I was seated by the window seat. Perfect passenger for the window seat is the one that just doesn't get up to go and do whatever. I was very happy that when I woke up, I could see that I'm still in the aircraft on top of the clouds and not in heaven. Um, as we landed in the morning at Schiphol, we were served light breakfast just before landing in the aircraft. The food was just okay. Look, it wasn't anything unusual. It was just a light breakfast. And one thing I can tell you is that the food that we eat in South Africa and the food that is served mainly in the UK-ish and some parts of Europe, like it's more or less the same. So I didn't experience anything that was like weird with the food or the plane or anything. And as we got off the aircraft at Schiphol, my husband started having a gout attack. Okay, cool. Gout attack, not an issue. Okay, take your meds. The meds might be in the checked-in luggage. Shove it. Okay. So then what? Okay, we get off the flight. First thing we did was to start looking for a place where we'll be comfortable in, which was a restaurant. We go to the restaurant and then we ordered some food. And so we ordered a burger and fries and a beer. And nothing says welcome to Europe than eating the most expensive meal ever. Well, it wasn't the most expensive meal, but the burger was so expensive. Like, we ordered two Wagyu burgers and fries and a beer each. And we paid about, oh, and we ordered also 500 milliliter of water for both of us, which was 1 liter. And we paid about 65 euros for everything, right? And that time I was like, 65 euros, you just tap your phone. And I wasn't converting. And I had told myself that I was not going to convert because I wanted to enjoy the trip. It's when I went into an area that had Wi-Fi and it sent me an email, and I got my email to say you've just tapped your phone or your card and you were debited this amount. It was about more than 1,500 rand or 65 euros. I was like, yo. But then I tried to act like I can afford it, you know. I've got this. No need to worry. Girl, yeah, I got this. So I asked one of the security guys to just tell me where I can find a pharmacy because clearly this man is in pain. He needs pain meds and he needs medication for gout. And they pointed me to the drugstore, and I went to the drugstore thinking it was a Discam or a Clicks. Yeah, the drugstore. I think the drugstore for me represented the part of the pharmacies that sell cosmetics and not even over the counter medication, cosmetics and perfumes, because that's what I saw there. There was no pharmacy to dispense or anything, even over the counter medication. It was just like a small shelf that had Panados and Advil CS, and dawned on me that apparently Amsterdam or Netherlands is the capital of Panado. So when you're sick, the first thing they give you is Panado. You go to the doctor, they give you Panado. So it's only then when it made sense to me what we had gotten ourselves into. And somebody else who was in the drugstore, when I asked them where I could find medication, because clearly this drugstore didn't have medication, and they just told me that I need to go to, there's a doctor that is 24 hours on call, so I must just go upstairs. And then I went upstairs and then I found a medical place. There's a doctor, somebody's there to see him. Then I had to run and go down to fetch him. Luckily, our checked-in bags had already gone to London. We only had our hand luggage with us. And then we found the doctor and we had to pay a consultation fee of 65 euros. And that also covered the colchicine and painkillers for 3 days. They are so strict. They are so strict. They gave us medication just for 3 days. Nothing more, nothing less. And luckily, they didn't give him a Panado. He got a colchicine and a bit of a strong painkiller. And that was it. We did not get much time to walk around the airport as he was limping and couldn't walk properly. So we had to just chill so that he can recuperate and be well for the next leg of the trip because we were still traveling. So he was in a wheelchair for most of the time, and that was not so fun for him or for me, you know. I don't think anybody enjoys having somebody sick at all. On holiday, it's even worse. Like, you don't want that near you. It took us about an hour and 20 minutes for us to arrive in Heathrow. And as we got into the plane, his foot was getting worse and worse. And for some reason, he struggled to walk. And even though he had gotten medication, pain pills and colchicine from the doctor, he was still struggling a bit. So we had to take it a bit easy there. And I asked him if he wanted to walk. He said he'll walk. I think he thought that it was King Shaka International Airport because, yay! When he saw the first passage after we got out, he just sat down and said, "Just get me the wheelchair, please. Just get me the wheelchair." Yeah, I knew it was real. Unfortunately, there were airport staff all around us, and when they saw him limping, they quickly jumped in to assist and got us onto the golf cart going to immigration counters. Guys, this airport is huge. It is big. Like when you turn right, there's like a whole passage more than 400 meters ahead of you. I mean, it's huge. It's the biggest airport I've ever seen myself. And just before we collected the bags, we also did a mini tour of their duty-free shop. It was quite small for such a huge airport, and I was a little bit disappointed there. I thought there would be more of a variety of things, but it was mostly alcohol. And I tried to see if there was another one, but I didn't see anything. And because I had a patient with me, I just had to leave it at that. We checked out the whiskeys to see which whiskeys they have at their duty free, try to compare it to ours. The one at OR Tambo International Airport is still the biggest and the best duty free I've seen so far. And we headed over to collect our bags, and we collected our baggage and then also met our friend who was waiting for us at arrivals. And yeah, we just jetted in and he helped us. He really helped me with the bags. I mean, I was pushing my husband on the wheelchair, then he was pushing the bags. So at least now I could just push my husband and then he can just push the bags. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I was a little embarrassed at the amount of bags that we had. I was wondering if people were asking themselves if we are ever returning home because we had a lot of bags. We knew what the plan was. The plan was we're going to take a lot of bags that and pay for excess luggage so that we can shop and bring things back home. But yeah, if you don't know the context of why we pack so many bags, then you will ask yourself a lot of questions. And if you're wondering whether we only pack clothes in the bags, no, we didn't just pack clothes. So usually when we travel abroad and we're going to meet some friends and family, we usually pack them foodstuff from home, which are like Marie biscuits, wine gum, salt and vinegar crisps, and a lot of medication. Also aromat, so things that feel home. My sister also asked for strawberry swirls and lemon creams. So yeah, we bought quite a lot of food. It was the food was packed in a 23-kilogram bag, and the other one, which was the hand luggage. And that's what we took for them. And you know what? They really appreciated the food. to be something that I mentioned. So the other thing that I noticed with the wheelchair assistance is that we've also used that service here at home at OR Tambo and King Shaka Airport. And it was quite different from how it was done at Heathrow. So when we are when we got to Heathrow and he was on the wheelchair, we just took the wheelchair and used it as our and used it. And then when we were finished, I wanted to take it back, and one of the guys who was at the parking lot who works there just told me where to put it so that people who want to access the wheelchairs can easily find them, even for somebody who's inside the parking lot who's going to collect somebody that needs a wheelchair is able to get it there. Um, so the different thing with when we were traveling in South Africa and when we were there is that here at home we had to have, like, there was somebody, a security guard who was dedicated to that wheelchair and assisted us pushing the person who needed assistance, and then they had to wait until we got onto the transport or however released the wheelchair back to them for them to take the wheelchair. And they waited with us when we were waiting for an Uber for us to give them the wheelchair back. So now at Heathrow, we get this wheelchair, we are pushing it ourselves, there's nobody following us, and nobody's is checking if you're going to return this wheelchair. So this was my first aha moment to say, I need to return this wheelchair because I don't want it to get lost. That moment for me was a big aha moment because nobody checked if we returned the wheelchair, but we returned it anyway, you know? It's the principle, it's not mine, it doesn't belong to me. Why should I keep it? That was my first aha moment. And you'll see how it ties up to all the other things that were just like a big aha moments for me that are seemingly normal for people who live in Europe.